Hey crafty friends, this is Mary. Welcome back to Cardz TV and happy Monday. I'm so glad y'all stopped by today. I told you in the last video that I was going to show you the die that I used to make this little quilt card. So that's what I'm going to do. Now here is the die. I got this from Amazon. And it was around $9.95, I think, which for what I'm using it for, and I will use this year after year, I think that was a great investment. Now, all you do to cut your frame, and here's one that I cut out using some polka dot paper. I did take a piece of copy paper and put on the back so I can drop my squares in. But you can use any paper you want to make your frame. And it's going to cut these little squares out for you as well. And everything has stitching around it. I love that about this die. So I'm going to go in to my die cutting machine. It's too big for my desk and y'all wouldn't be able to see it roll through and everything. So I'm going to go into the die cutting machine and cut this out and come back, and we're going to take it off the die and you can see all the parts and pieces, and then I'll show you how to put them together. So I'll be right back. Now first off, I want to tell y'all, I am not telling you you have to have this die to make this quilt card. Here is one I made where I just used a square punch. It's a 1-inch punch, and I just cut my piece of white cardstock at 3 3/4 by 5, and then I just put my little squares on there, and I had to judge the width or the border and everything to try to get them on there the way I wanted them. And I can see there's a lot of places my little square's crooked and all that, but that doesn't matter. It still turns out beautiful. So if you're not interested in this die, don't worry about it. I'm just telling you, I found it, and I like the ease and the way I can get the cards done faster by using the die. Now this is the one I made with the die, and this is the one where I just used my 1-inch punch and just cut out my cardstock and put it on there. And there's hardly any difference. The only difference is these are spaced more evenly. So with that said, let me show you what I cut out. Now I cut my cardstock at, I think it was 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. Put my die on there. Excuse me, y'all. About to lose my voice again. And I ran it through my die cutting machine. Now the die has holes on this side. So I'm going to take my pokey tool, put in those little holes, just like most dies. And the first thing that comes off is this little thin frame. Now I'm keeping all these to use on other cards. You don't put it on this card, or at least I didn't. I didn't think it needed it. But I'm hanging on to these because I can use them on another card. And if you get your die evenly on your piece of cardstock that you use to cut it out, you can save that for a frame as well. But we're going to put that to the side. Now we're going to go ahead and get our frame out. There we go. Now, it cuts out all the little squares as well as the frame. I'm not using the white squares for these cards. But look at that. Can you see all the little stitching lines around there? That's what I love about it, is that and the ease with which you can use this to drop your little squares down in. Now hang on to these little white squares, because I'm going to show you what we can do with these white ones. And they all have holes behind them if you have trouble getting them out. One more. Okay, we're going to put our die over here, and I'll show you what I did next. So we're going to hang on to our little white squares, and they all have stitching around them. Now, I cut a piece of copy paper to go behind this. And I cut it, I'll grab my ruler, because you need a backing to hold your squares. I cut it just about 3 3/4 by 4 7/8 because I wanted it to fit well from side to side and the top and the bottom. And I don't know if you can see the white on white, but it just about fits perfectly. You can see the squares through there. I'm going to put some glue on the back and get my piece of white copy paper attached, and then we'll come back and I'll show you what we're going to do with the squares. Okay, I've got my glue all around the frame, and then I went across these 3 center bars, and I'm just going to lay this on here and move it around until I get it all lined up. I don't want any hanging around or hanging over the edge that can be seen on the front. And then I'll just take my finger and go over these 3 lines in the center. And there's my frame ready to put some squares in. Now, if you don't want to use the die, let me grab it again, to cut out your different pattern paper blocks, you can use that 1-inch square punch and they will fit. But here are some that I cut out. I used that polka dot paper so you could see it better. But we're going to use this. This is small polka dots on one side and large ones on the other. But you can see these fit perfectly in there. So you can take this die and cut your patterned paper. Pick 3 or 4 patterns. Go ahead and cut out the blocks, and you'll have enough to do 3 or 4 cards, depending on how many papers you cut out. And they'll all have that stitching around them, and they'll just fit right down in those little squares, just like that. And it takes no time to put this together. So let me get some that I already have. I'm trying to use up all my scraps. These are some, I cut these squares with the die, and they just went right in. I did all of these while I was watching football yesterday, and I had these done before they were 5 minutes into the first quarter. These are ready to go on a scalloped background mat, and I'll leave you a link for this die. You see they're going to go on there. Put it on something white so you can see. And then onto my card base. So quick. So these were cut out with the die. And these are some that I cut with my 1-inch punch. And I just dropped them right down in the squares. Nothing to it. So you can see how quick and easy this is, y'all. Now, let me show you what we're going to do with this one. I've got some little squares, and I've stamped some little leaves and things like that on them. And we're going to use these squares that I've punched out, and maybe some others that I use my square punch for. And you can find, I found 3 different 1-inch square punches on Amazon. If you don't have one and you want to get one, maybe you need that instead of the die. Both work. Just like I showed you, you don't have to have that die to make a card. Here's my 2 examples. This was with the die. This was with the square punch. That just gives you 2 options. But we're going to make a little fall card first using the polka dot frame and the little polka dot squares and some of these white squares. And then I've got a new quilt card I want to show you, and we're going to make one of those. So I'll be right back with you guys. Okay, I'm ready to start putting my little Thanksgiving card together and my Christmas card together. Both of these were the frames I cut out with the die. These are the squares that I cut out with the die. And you can see I took some of the white ones from this frame and stamped some leaves and a pumpkin on there and my sentiment. And I colored these and I mixed them in with the reverse side of the small polka dot frame. And I'm going to get these put in. Now these are some that I've been cutting out of my scraps with that 1-inch punch. And these are going to fit right into the white frame as well. And I've got the copy paper on the back. And I'm just going to start gluing these in. I'm not going to make you watch me. It will take me just a little bit of time. Maybe 5 minutes or so. But I'm not going to make you watch me glue in every single square. I'll just do a few and show you how easy and quick this is and how well they fit right in. They just pop right in that frame. What's that expression? Like butter? And when we come back, I'll have these done and you can see these 2 examples. So you can make up your mind. Do you need a 1-inch punch or do you need the die? It's your call. Entirely up to you. But I'll be back in just a second for you guys. It'll be a little bit longer than that for me, but not too much. Okay, you can see I got my 2 little quilt cards ready to go through an embossing folder to quilt them. And after I do that, I'll put them on one of those scalloped rectangles and get them on the front of a card base. And won't that be cute, guys? I just love this one for Thanksgiving. So cute. And then this one, of course, I'll have to add a sentiment to this one. But it's going to be cute as well. And so Christmassy looking with all the red, green, and white. So that's how simple it is, guys. You can use a 1-inch square punch and just cut a 3 3/4 by 5-inch rectangle and put your 1-inch squares on there, or you can use the die, which will cut the squares for you as well as the frame, and drop them down in. It's just 2 ways to make the same card, right? Okay, are you ready to learn a new quilt card? I'll be right back and I'll have everything we need to get going on it. And it's called a scrambled block quilt card. So I'll be right back. Okay, y'all, we are going to make what's called a scrambled block quilt card. Now, the lady, I think, that originated this was Robin at Really Robin Stamps. That's the first time I saw it, and that's what she called it, was a scrambled block quilt card. So we're going to take her measurements and make this quilt card, and I have tweaked it just a tiny bit. And what we'll need, we've got to have a card base, and we'll need a mat 4 by 5 1/4. And then we're going to have 5 rectangular blocks which are 1.25 inches by 2.5 inches. We'll need 5. And then we'll need 2 squares, which are 1.25 inches square. And as you can see, I have a ton of bigger scraps. So I'm going to take these into my trimmer and cut these down to that 2-inch, 1.25-inch square. I'll do some of those because we only need 2. And then I'm going to do 5 of the 1.25 by 2.5 inch blocks. And I'm going to do enough for a couple of cards. And we'll see what we can make with all of these scraps. And we'll do some scrambled block quilt cards. This is going to be fun. Well, y'all, I was able to whittle my big pile of scraps down to this, which is a little bit better, but I've still got a ton of them. These I'm going to have to turn into 1-inch squares, I think. Now, I've got my 1.25-inch squares, and I've got 2 for each card, and I've got my 1.25 by 2.5 inch rectangle blocks over here, and I think I have enough for 3 cards. Now, we're going to put these on our 4 by 5.25 inch mats. I've got a red one, and what else is over here? 2 green ones. So we're going to see how we can make this come out. Now what you do, let's see, I don't want red on red. Let's do, now you're going to leave about 1/8 of an inch border around your squares and your rectangles and in between. And you're going to start with a square in each corner. Then you'll come down here and you'll add 1 of your 1.25 by 2.5 inch rectangles, leaving that border around it. Right here, let's see what all we have here. You'll add another one, leaving that border. Then you'll put 1 here. One here. Now, Robin left this one blank, and she put I think it was a different color than these others. And she put one right there and put her sentiment on it. But we're just going to go ahead and add another rectangle right there. Not that one. Let's see. Let's do this one. And if you have directional prints, you want to be mindful of that. But that's how that's going to go. Just like that. It kind of looks like a crazy quilt to me with all the different patterns and colors. So there's one. Let me scoot these out of the way. Now let's do one with the green. And you can arrange these any way you want. Use whatever patterns, colors, but you do want to start with, let's see, let's do the check. With your squares first. And that helps you line up and leave that 1/8 of an inch border all around. Okay, what do we want next? I've got some directional. Let's use this one. Or this one. Or this one. Let's do this. So it's got some green too. Then we're going to put one right there. Let's use one of these directional ones. That's directional. Let's keep that. No. Let's do this one. No, let's do that one. This is directional. It says Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas. And we'll put this one right here. So there's our second one. So we've got to use whatever's left on this green one. Let's scoot them up out of the way. Okay. Let's use this one. I love that with the little candy canes. So cute. That one. Now this is directional, so it's got to go here. No. This is like putting a puzzle together. Okay. No. I need to move something. But what? There. That's better, I think. Yeah. Okay, we've got all these squares left we can use on some others. Now that I've got the 3 of them laid out, I can go back and move them around to other cards. Like I said, it's like putting a puzzle together. Okay, I'm going to get my glue and start gluing these down. I do think I do want to move one of these polka dots. Let's move this one. That's better. Yeah, I like that better. Okay, I'm going to start gluing. If you're doing this at the same time, start gluing yours, guys. Isn't this fun? I really think it is. And we're getting rid of those scraps. So we'll put our corner squares down first. Oh, that's pretty. Don't do like me or we'll never get done. Let's put our corners down first and leave that 1/8 of an inch border. It's kind of hard to see on this black mat, but I think I've got it right. And you know me, I always put too much glue. I'm going to move these to the sides and the top. And we'll get this one on. I didn't look at the back of any of them. I might have missed out on some good ones. We'll get this one down. Leave that 1/8 of an inch. Then we'll get this down. And I'm just going to keep gluing, guys. And you keep gluing. And I'll meet you back here in a few minutes. We'll see what we've got. Here are our scrambled block quilt card bases. Didn't they turn out cute? I love this, guys. It's so quick and easy. Uses up your scraps. And what cute cards we're going to have. Now we're going to run these through an embossing folder and actually give them a quilted look. So I'll get my a Cuttlebug up here and an embossing folder, and we'll run these through and I'll show you what they look like. Now I'm using this Cuttlebug embossing folder today that kind of reminds me of a wedding ring quilt. So we're going to take one of our quilt card bases and get this in here. We're going to make a sandwich. I've got an A plate, a B plate. I'll put my folder in and get another B plate. This is probably going to be a pretty tight fit because I've got so many thicknesses of cardstock going through. So I'll have to use my muscles to crank it through. But it's going. There we go. Now let's see what we've got. I think we're going to love it. Oh, I do love it. Look at that, guys. Can you see that pattern on there? Oh, I do love it. That's what the back looks like. That's gorgeous, too. But look at that. Okay, I'm going to run the other two through, and then we're going to get this on our card base, and we're going to put a sentiment on here. Well, y'all, I went ahead and glued my quilt cards together. I put sentiments on them, and where are those dies? I use these little scallop stitched oval dies. This one is 1.5 by 2.5, and then this one is 2 inches by 1 inch. I think they turned out so cute. I had so much fun today, y'all. I hope y'all did too. This is one of my new favorite quilts to do, or quilt cards. Just look at that. It was so quick and easy, and I used up so many of my scraps, which was great. I've still got tons more, and I'm sure y'all do too. And look at this little Thanksgiving card. I love using that new die and using some double-sided polka dot paper. Didn't that turn out cute? I put it on a chocolate brown scalloped rectangle. Now I've got links for the scalloped rectangle and this new die on the description box below this video, so if y'all are interested in that. And thank you to Miss Robin over at Really Robin Stamps for coming up with this wonderful quilt card design. It's awesome. And I'm going to give you a link to her blog or to her YouTube channel so you can go over and check her out. She's a very talented, creative lady, and I'm in love with this. And for her to come up with all the dimensions and everything was just great. I was so happy I found that. So give it a try, y'all. Thank you all so very much for coming by today. I hope you've enjoyed this and had as much fun as I've had. And let me know if you made some cards right along with me. I hope you did. That would be just like a Christmas crop, wouldn't it? Be so much fun. Remember, I love you all. God bless you all. And I will see you again soon with another card. And don't forget to come back on Wednesday, because Wayne is going to throw a wrench in the churn, as they say. He's got a big surprise for me. He's adding something to the Wednesday Mystery Card Challenge. So come back and see what he's got up his sleeve on Wednesday. Bye now. I almost forgot to tell y'all, Wayne is starting his YouTube channel back again, and he went out and found some figs way out in the country, and he's done a video where he's making some fig preserves. It's going up the same day as this video. So I will give you a link and go over and check it out and give him some love, y'all. He had a really good time, and those fig preserves are delicious. So go over and say hi to Wayne. He sure would appreciate it.